Chapter 3 Refining the Wrought. Ho ho! Voris wakes me up. Young Smith, are you ready to start your training? I wipe the crud from my eyelashes and squint at Voris looming over me. Training? I clear the phlegm from my throat. Well, of course, laddie. You're a certified apprentice now, and you haven't the slightest idea what smithing's about, do ya? I shake my head. On with it then, young Smith. Ho ho! Forrest heads toward the table and begins setting places for us. I pull myself out of bed and stretch for a moment, then struggle with the bedding. The harder I try, the less it cooperates. Life with one arm makes even the most simple tasks nearly impossible. Need a hand, young Smith? Forrest stands behind me, extending the arm Nita gave to me. Ho ho! Here you are, lad. I smile and grab the arm from him. I completely forgot about it. A good night's rest will do that, I guess. The leather she sewed onto the outside almost makes it look like human skin. It's uncanny. I slide it around my stub and lean against the wooden support beam so I can position it correctly and give it a smack. Instantly, the feeling returns like it was never removed. I snap the pelt with one wave and it falls neatly across the bed. Amazing. Ho ho! Well, that's more like it, young Smith. Boris claps his hands together. Now, come eat. You're gonna need the energy. We eat our meal mostly in silence, wipe off our plates, and prepare for the lesson. Forrest begins by walking me around the workshop and telling me the names of various tools and their purposes, ranging from his prized cross-peen hammer to the horn of his anvil, chisels, punches, hardy tools, and pritchel holes, bending drift, hide mallets, vices, the forge. My head is throbbing. I can't retain much more. But most important, young Smith. Voris finally pauses, but only for an instant. The bellows. He stops in front of the strangest looking item in the room. You're gonna get real familiar with this fella. Ho ho! A malicious smile emerges across his face. So, this here is what gets me fire to the right heat. By pushing this handle down and pulling it back up, it releases air, letting me fire breathe. He demonstrates how it works. When he lowers the handle, it completely deflates and shoots a burst of air into the forge. As he lifts, it fills back up and returns to its previous size. Forrest continues doing this, and I watch as the coals become a brighter, deep red, and the flames within dance with every gust. The heat radiates onto my face. Sweat begins dripping from my brow. I wipe it with my sleeve. You're sweating just watching me. Wait till you give her a go. He stops pumping the air. And lucky you, I got a pair of 'em. You can be blown with both arms. Ho ho! He steps to the side, revealing a second bellows. There, try 'em out, lad. And while you're doing that, I'll tell you about me colors. Ho ho! I walk over and place myself between both of the bellows. I reach out my right hand first and grab hold of the handle. It's a soft wood. Now for my left arm. I watch as the leather fingers grip that other handle just as my own flesh did. It's still really weird to see. I push them both down with all of my might at the same time. A cloud of ash explodes in my face. Ho ho! Voris laughs hysterically. One at a time, laddie. You don't gotta be so rough. I'm completely covered in soot. This is already going great. As his laughter starts dying down, I give the bellows another try, placing my hands on both of the handles. Gently, I begin raising my right arm and watch as it inflates, then softly push it down. It blows out a little bit of air. Now I do the same with my left arm, but with a little more force. I sends a small puff out. That one looked right. I try again with my right arm. It looks good. Left arm, good. Right arm, good. I decide to start raising one arm while I'm lowering the other and begin getting a rhythm. The hearth glows brightly. That's it, lad, Forrest chuckles behind me. You're a natural, young Smith. Now, how about me colours? Just then, a random man storms through the shop door. I let go of the handles to look. Ring-a-ding. Voris! The man runs over to us and drops to his knees. Voris! I need your help! What's the matter, lad? A courier! The man bursts into tears. My nailsmith! No shipment! Get a hold of yourself, lad! Voris lifts him to his feet. You say you're in need of some nails, then? The man nods once with tears in his eyes. How many will hold you over till your next shipment? The man rubs his chin. I could manage with 150. Ho ho, you couldn't have picked a better thing to need. It's perfect for me new apprentice first job. Forrest pats my back. Come back at sundown with the silver, lad. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The man runs out quicker than he came in. Ring-a-ding. Well, we best get to it, young Smith. Forrest walks door to door I had never noticed before. Grab me special hammer, a pair of tongs, and a chisel, would you, lad? He goes through the door, and I can hear the creaking of old wooden stairs slowly making their way downward. I search around the room, scanning for the tools he wants. I spot a pair of tongs. As I bend down to pick them up, I notice there are several other sets of tongs, all with different clamps. Oh boy. I squeeze a few of them. They look like crab claws closing. He said we're making nails. I picture a tiny nail in my brain and choose a pair of tongs. Next he said a chisel. That's an easy one. I remember seeing it somewhere around here. There it is. I grab Voris's only chisel. Last, but certainly not least, his special hammer. I should know it when I see it. Aha! I walk over to a group of 4 hammers. They all pretty much look the same, other than one of them. But I know his special hammer didn't have a ball on one side. I roll out the odd one and look again. Another one with a ball. This one is shaped like the remaining 2, though. I set it aside. 2 left. They're practically identical, other than the backside. One has a bulge spanning left to right, the other a bulge going top to bottom. How could I forget? Forrest made such a commotion about me special cross-peen hammer. I decide. I bring the tools he asked for over to the anvil and forge. While I'm placing what he requested, Forrest comes back through the door from the cellar, holding a huge stack of thin iron rods. He sets the pile near the forge, then grabs a small wooden box and puts it next to the water trough. Forrest ganders at the tools I've gathered. Ho ho, you hit the nail on the head, young Smith. He smiles wide. How'd you know which tongs to grab? And you remembered me hammer. Well done, lad. I smile, and a warmness fills my chest. Go ahead with the bellows, lad. Forrest grabs an iron rod. Your job is to keep me fire the right heat, and to watch closely. I remember my rhythm from earlier and pick up where I left off. So, lad, I never told you about me colors. Forrest places one end of the thin iron rod into the glowing coals. A blacksmith works with 3 different colors of heat. Black, red, and white. Ho ho! I continue working the bellows. Most of the time we'll be using red. That's the temperature that lets me shape wrought iron however me heart desires. Forrest pulls the iron rod from the fire. It's glowing bright red. Hold up with the bellows, lad, and pay attention. I release the handles and turn to watch Forrest, analyzing his every move. With his left hand protected by a leather glove, he grips the cold end of the iron. He angles it, laying the glowing end flat against the anvil. Forrest begins smacking his hammer down onto the tip of the rod. I stare in awe. He swings 2 or 3 times, then spins the iron rod slightly and repeats. He continues this process, and I watch as the iron gets smaller and smaller, being sharpened to a point. This is what you call a taper, young smith. It's most important to spin as you swing. If you don't, you end up with a bent mess. Ho ho! Forrest explains. By rotating the rod, it lets me hit all the sides, keeping it all even all around. He pauses. Need more heat, lad. I go back to the bellows. Sweat drips off of my nose. I start pumping again. Almost done, lad. Forrest places the same end into the fire again. Then we only got 149 to go. Ho ho! He waits a little while, then says, Okay, come watch again, young smith. This time, Forrest grabs the rod, lays it flat on the anvil, and picks up his chisel, placing the sharp edge on top of the glowing rod. Next, he smacks his hammer down onto the top of the chisel, causing a cut about halfway through the rod. He then flips the rod over and does the same thing again, nearly slicing completely through the metal. Forrest sets his chisel to the side and grabs the tongs. He grips the nearly severed piece, twists, and yanks it the rest of the way off. Forrest quickly jabs the new end of the rod into the forge and presses the tongs against the edge of the anvil. He then smacks the top of the tiny glowing iron until it stretches and flattens against the tongs, creating a head for the nail. There you have it. Forrest dips the tongs into the water trough. There's a sizzle. One iron nail. He pulls it out of the water and drops it into the small wooden box. It clinks a few times, then rolls to a stop. Out of nowhere, Forrest starts looking all over intently, until he smiles big and walks across the room and bends down with his back turned. Ho ho! Almost forgot. Take a look at me, Hardy. His what? He stays silent for a moment. Oh, the things you must be thinking. Get your mind out of the gutter, laddie. Ho ho! Forrest comes back to the anvil and drops something into the square hole on the top of it. It slides down and wedges in place. The tool looks like a stubby, upright chisel with a sharp edge straight across. That's a Hardy tool, young smith. It sits in the Hardy hole. Ho ho! That lets you make cuts without having to hold a chisel. We go through the process again. I heat the fire, he tapers the point, then I heat it again. All right, lad. Same thing pretty much. But this one, I can set on the Hardy. I watch as he lays the red metal on top of the sharp edge and smacks the rod, slicing about halfway through it. Forrest flips the rod, smacks it again, then rips it off with his tongs. He quickly puts it to the edge of the anvil and flattens out a head. Tss! Clink! Much better that way. Ho ho! We continue doing these steps throughout most of the day. I work the bellows while he shapes the metal. It's exhausting. I don't know if the bellows have let out more air or me. We only stop to eat a small meal midday, then get right back to making nails. I observe the way Forrest uses his tools, tapering, twisting, and flattening heads. Ho ho! How ya feeling, young smith? Forrest drops the newest nail into the box. Only one left, lad. I hunch over, soaked in black sweat, breathing heavily through my mouth. Oh, I figured you might say something like that. He chuckles to himself. You've been paying attention, right, lad? I nod, remaining hunched over, watching droplets fall to the stone floor. Good on ya, young Smith. He pats my back. Want to make the final nail, lad? He wants me to try? I mean, I have been watching him since sunup, and it's nearly dark through the windows now. At one point or another, I'll have to cross this bridge. I guess sooner is better than later. Yes, I let out in between pants. Oh, that's the spirit, young Smith. Forrest holds out his hammer. There you are, lad. Show me what you can do. His special hammer. I accept his offer and grab hold of the handle. The wood is damp. He's sweating as much as I am. Forrest walks around the anvil and squeezes between the bellows. He barely fits. He reaches out and grabs the handles. I step to the other side with the forge now to the right of me, anvil in front, and behind that is Forrest. There are only 2 rods remaining from the pile he brought up earlier. One of them half gone. On your word, young Smith. Forrest nods at me. Okay. Give me some heat. Ho ho, yes sir. He begins pumping the bellows. Just as Forrest did, I take the half-used rod and stick one end into the coals. I wait until I feel it's been long enough and pull it out, grabbing with my leather hand. It's glowing red. I immediately angle the rod, lay it flat against the top of the anvil, and strike it with the hammer. I can feel the hot iron move a little bit through the hammer, and yet it was still harder than rock. I strike again and again, then rotate it with my left hand. I strike it again 3 times, then twist. I keep doing this and watch how every blow stretches the metal, slowly making it thinner and longer, making its way to a dull point. That looks great, lad. Are you sure this is your first time doing this? I nod. Ho ho! Well, you may be a blacksmith at heart. More heat, I blurt out. Forrest looks at me surprised, then smiles big and starts chuckling. He grabs the handles and starts pumping. I didn't mean to cut him off like that, but he was saying earlier how quick the whole process is and yet slow at the same time. You got limited time to work with it before it cools, young Smith. I don't want to mess this up. I stick the now tapered end into the coals and wait. I think it's ready. I take the rod yet again and lay it across the hardy tool and strike. The cut only goes a quarter of the way through. I hit it again. The cut's nearly half through. I flip the rod and strike it. It's barely staying together. I quickly grab the tongs and rip off the tiny piece. It's no longer glowing. I'm still going to try and flatten the head, though. I rest the tongs against the anvil and strike down. It moves a little bit, but it's hardened up too much to flatten out. That's all right, young Smith. Just heat it again. Forrest starts using the bellows. I gently place the tiny, half-finished nail into the coals, keeping my eye on it, making sure it doesn't disappear. I thought I had it. I was so close to replicating what I had been watching an entire day. Alas, I fell short. The half-finished nail begins to glow amongst the coals and coke. Ring-a-ding! Forrest! The random man returns. Are you finished? You're just in time, laddie, Forrest shouts. My apprentice here is about to finish your final nail in his first one. Ho ho! Excellent. I'll wait here. I reach into the flames with the tongs and pull out the tiny, incomplete nail. I line it up in the crevices of the clamps and rest it against the anvil. I strike down. The metal bends under my blow. Again. Twist. Strike. I raise the hammer to reveal a flattened head. Ho ho! It looks perfect, young smith, Forrest yells proudly and smacks my back. Cool it down and drop it in the box, lad. Tss. I hold the tongs above a small wooden box filled with nails, and just before I release, the random man shouts. Wait! Forrest grunts. Keep that nail, young apprentice. The random man insists. I will pay the full price of silver, Forrest, even if there is one missing. Keep it? What's the point? Why? I ask, unsure of his intentions. As a memento, of course. I came in expecting a casual transaction, and instead I got to witness an incredible moment between a master and his pupil. Although I don't know you yet, I could tell what just happened was the beginning of something beautiful. It was like watching a flower bloom its first bud. It would be wrong for me to clip it and keep it for myself. So hold on to that nail, and always remember this moment. The random man's voice is shaky. My eyes get watery. Thank you. The random man nods and begins talking to Forrest. I hold the tongs over my right hand and drop the nail into my palm. It's something so small, something that probably would have been forgotten about in the side of some lumber. Yet, that man saw more to it than that. This isn't just a nail. It's the first thing I ever crafted myself. After all the hard work and studying, Forrest's technique the whole day, I created this. What'd you bring the box here, young smith? I stop staring at the nail and slide it into my pocket, then pick up the wooden box and carry it to the man. Thank you. Smith, was it? I nod. Huh. Smith the smith. He scratches his head. Thank you again. The random man takes the box of nails and leaves. Ring-a-ding. Well, lad, I'd say that was a great first day for ya. Forrest grins. You showed me you're capable of following instructions, and you even keep a clear headspace when you're exhausted. Forrest puts his right arm around the back of my neck, grips my shoulder, and embraces me. I'm proud of what you did today, young smith. Let that nail be a symbol of the start of your transformation. Ho ho!